everyone, my name is Bo Derricks, and today I want to talk about bearing the unbearable. Um, I think this is a terrific time in um, bringing up this topic because we are living in times where physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual pain is quite out there and in there. And sometimes all of the above we can experience at the same time. So we are being challenged to really deepen our sense of compassion. Um, it's not a coincidence that I'm sitting the way I do right now because I really feel that this painting that is on top of me, above me, I mean, is is really for me symbolizing um, a kind of bearing that I think we all are deepening uh, the rest of our lives. It's a kind of compassion that can always be more broad and become more spacious, become more um, become more spacious. I think that's the right word for it. Um, I have been confronted with and challenged with pain for already quite some years. I feel pain is a mercy and not a burden. Although in the beginning I didn't see it like that, of course. In the beginning, when I was challenged with either mental, emotional, or physical, spiritual pain, I didn't have a lot of compassion for what was arising inside of me or what was arising around me. But as we grow older, and the way of holding ourselves in grace is becoming more evolved, I have been crystallizing and understanding that um, the pain in my life is sacred. It uh, it is God sending me message to come closer to God. And as I look around me, I see, of course, everybody is encounter is has been confronted with pain, is encountering pain, and there are different. I have seen different ways, and also in my path, in my journey, different ways of bearing the unbearable, because sometimes we just don't know how to handle the amount of pain that we experience anymore. In the beginning, I was carrying my the pain that was arising. I was carrying it on my shoulders. It's I think for a lot of people this is the development curve that we go through. And I just made a very simple triangle. I'll show you. Like, I was carrying it right here, and do you see what happens at the bottom? It's You only need this, and it falls. So I also been experienced in fitness and training with weights in my younger years. It's not that I'm very old right now, but in my younger years. So you can imagine that lifting weight with your shoulders is and when you lift weight with your foundation, with your pelvic, there's a big force difference, a big power difference in it. So carrying a burden on the shoulders is you cannot handle a lot there. It's not built for bearing a lot of heavy stuff. But it's also beautiful because this is what is happening in our spiritual growth. It's like at one point you can feel like I cannot carry this anymore, and and we break, and it's just that's just the point of breaking where we will feel the relief, because then we will experience there is a different area. At first, it's all in our body. I will go further down the line, but at first, it's a very bodily experience. So, when we break and feel we cannot go on anymore, we drop. And what's dropping is it's like this elevator, like the way we carry, way we bear our pain is dropping, uh, and it drops in our pelvic, and there we feel a completely different way of compassion, a completely different way of relating towards our pain, burden, whatever it may be. Um, this level between being conscious in bearing it over here and burying it in your pelvic is already a tremendous um, transformation, because when this is occurring, you can see that we have become way more strong. We have become way more stable. We are not being easily swept off of our feet, so to say, in symbolic speaking. So, but I want to talk to you about that point of where we think, because it's a thinking, we think we can just not bear it anymore. At that point, that is such a fertile and spiritual experience to really go deep in that feeling of I cannot just don't fight it, just feel that um, experience that's going on inside of your head. Observe what's happening. And at that point where we think we don't have it in us anymore to create compassion for something, um, there comes a point where we feel we drop deeper. And when we drop deeper, there comes more space. Like the space in our pelvic is way larger than the space we have on our shoulders. So the space becomes bigger. So the more space we can create for the pain that we experience, the more compassion we can bear for the experience that we are having. Now, what I find so beautiful is like that bearing the unbearable and bearing a child is, I find it so beautiful that the same words are being used in English for this. Because now I come to the last stage, I think, not I think, I feel, in bearing what is arising. What is arising is when a woman is pregnant and the baby is growing inside of her, the uncomfortableness becomes bigger and bigger. The baby is pushing all the organs, and it's becoming bigger. So joints start to ache, and the body really feels less and less comfortable with the baby being inside. And I myself never had the experience of bearing a child, but what I hear is that the longer the pregnancy is going on, the less compassion women tend to have for their that there comes a point where they also feel like, oh my god, I really want this to be done with, I'm tired, I cannot go on anymore. And then exactly at that point there comes a time where um, this this friction needs to leave for more spaciousness, because the environment where it's in, it cannot be anymore. Just like the pain that we are experiencing, God is sending us these messages, and it's broadening our pain, and it's broadening our pain, and broadening our pain, not to torture us. It's to let us feel that it's time for that pain to leave us, and to search for more spaciousness. It needs more space. It needs more. It needs more. It needs more love. It needs more compassion. And just as with the woman that is about to give birth to a child, to bear a child, um, we stop carrying, we stop bearing the pain in the self. And that is a very beautiful switch. I say it again, like there comes a point where we stop bearing and carrying the pain in the self. And that's why I find the process of a woman giving birth to a child so beautiful, because that is exactly what is happening when we get more evolved in creating compassion. The the pain will remain there, but the presence for that pain will search for more spaciousness. And the spaciousness is not here, it's also not there, but it's there. And that is the way I see it, the path of awakening, that we start to see and understand and observe that there is a presence outside of this self that is so full of emptiness. That is a beautiful contradiction, huh? It's so full of emptiness. It has such a spaciousness. It has such a warm, loving womb. If we again refer to a woman giving birth to a child, we don't. There comes a point where we feel that we can let go of containing that pain, that we can let go of controlling, containing the burden that we are feeling. We can give it away to something outside of the self. Sit with this for a moment. We can give pain away to something that is outside of the self. And this something outside of the self is a presence that has the ability of so much unconditional love. It's it's so spacious and it's so empty and it's so welcoming. The parts that you are ready to give away, the parts that you are ready to stop controlling over, the parts that you are ready to stop obsessing over. And the moment you open that door, and I'm sorry, it's going to be very plastic, but it's just coming in my mind. I'm just going to spit it out there. The moment the vagina of the woman is opening to give way to what we cannot bear anymore, the light enters. It comes into the light, and in the light, everything is so much more bearable. Everything is so much more. There is so much more love. The spaciousness that we are when we stop containing pain in the self is um, the doorway to becoming um, limitless. We start to see that we are not so narrow, that we are not so converted. I don't know, I'm just giving a word as we become more like this. We do you feel this when I do this? What happens? What happens in a mental way? What happens in a physical, in an emotional, in a spiritual way? But this doesn't happen overnight. So just like the birth of a child, yeah, that can happen overnight, by the way. But the process, the 9 months before it, is also the process, of course. Huh? The birth is not all of all of the sudden there. There is a whole process that is coming in front of it, and that is the same with our spiritual path in dealing with bearing pain, bearing friction. It is um, a process that needs a lot of presence, because suffering without presence is lost. It's a waste of energy. Um, there is nothing being crystallized, and we will remain stuck in that same wheel of um, bearing and carrying the things that come on our path, and that is not a graceful way of bearing. It is lots of times a lot of fighting, a lot of fleeting away. It is not a great. Yeah, it has nothing to do with a graceful bearing of um, the pain and friction that can occur in our lives. But at the moment that we start to suffer in presence, that we will remain present in that process, there is where the magic happens. Conscious suffering, that is the seed of all growth. And um, the moment that we start to become present in the process of bearing pain, experiencing suffering, we shine light on the darkness, because pain is always um, God telling us, "Hey, look at those shadow, dark corners inside of you that needs to be brightened, that needs to be seen. And is what it does is presence is light. Presence is light. And what it does, for instance, with a flower, it's, plants, flowers, they need light in order to break open. And this is exactly what happens when we start becoming present in our suffering. Light um, will start slowly shining in, because there are cracks that are occurring in that dark, combusted room that has been there. And slowly, some rays of light. I also always find it so beautiful, when there is this light shining through a window, or when you walk in a forest, there are these light beams, they're shining through the branches. And this is exactly what your presence, what our presence is also doing with that part that is still in darkness. Light beams slowly enter into that room. And at one point, the light is becoming brighter and brighter until the darkness cannot be contained anymore. And so, just like a flower, we break open. And so there comes spaciousness. There is a larger embracement of how we are being carried. And so we don't have to carry ourselves anymore. The presence will carry us. Some people like to call it source, some people like to call it essence, some people like to call it God. But that experience, when we start experiencing that we don't have to carry ourselves anymore, is so liberating. And just at the moment we think we cannot broaden our compassion more than we have already done, that we really hit that ceiling with presence, if we can stay in that awareness, like I don't have anything inside of me anymore, and we will stay present in that process. We will keep shining the light on that process. We keep observing ourselves. We break open, and there comes this new way of being carried. The spaciousness is all of a sudden way broader, just as you thought, like, how much more can I expand? There is just so much more space still. And that's what I find so beautiful. If I look at it from my path of that I'm walking, like, uh, the longer I am um, practicing, the longer I'm doing my inner stuff, the longer I'm doing my inner work. And inner work is nothing more than shining presence, shining light on the stuff that is still in the shadows. The longer I am simply shining my light, simply um, being present with the process, the more I expand, the more free I become, the less combusted I am. And I think I will leave it with that. I hope you guys can relate to this experience, and I hope you can add this presence in what you are wrestling with right now. being present is has always been the has always been the cure for me in ways that you can't talk about a cure. And you can experience this process as such a beautiful way in coming closer to God. And I think that is worth all the pain that I have been bearing and experiencing in my life. And I hope it is for you too.